Thank you for joining, and welcome to round 2 of Hongdae's Saturday challenge that we had. I don't think there was a tournament name, but that's what I'm going to call it. And I'm going to introduce Francis on the left here, playing Dead Guy Ale, or Pakula, typical white-black weenies, and Thunder on the right, playing Grixis Tezzerator. I believe that there's going to be quite a few very bad cards on either side, and as we resolve mulligans here, the slow start from Dead Guy Ale is a bit worrisome for him. Francis would really like to start out with one of the best cards in the matchup, be it Inquisition, Thoughtseize, and some of the less important cards are going to be things like the Stone Forges, maybe Lingering Souls is way too slow here and doesn't really do much. I think that in the face of a turn 1 Chalice and not having an Inquisition, he's going to have a lot of dead cards, although things like Swords to Plowshares weren't relevant to begin with. The only way that he has of dealing with a Chalice is probably Council's Judgment, if he's running any. Besides that, it's very narrow. There's not going to be an Abrupt Decay here, I really don't think. It stretches the mana base pretty badly. So Francis has no turn 1 play, but he does have a Stoneforge on 2, and I think we'll just default to Batterskull here. There it is. I'm not sure what plan Thunder has with the hand that he was dealt here, but shutting off a Mystery Dex 1-drops off the bat is totally reasonable. Also, guys, I had left those huge dice out here for your Chalice. Looks like he could probably ramp into a Signet. I don't think it's possible to make enough colored mana to do anything relevant here, but maybe he has the ability to make a Strix this turn. So he sends a blue mana through the Insignia. Which will enable him to get a Baleful Strix. Draw a card. And an end of turn Batterskull activation is decent here, but I think that the most important cards that the Pakula deck really wants to see are a big Planeswalker and just enough pressure to get by him. So maybe a removal spell for the Strix and then a Dark Confidant gaining cards and beating face. We are going to see a fetch. So he has more to play than just making up a Batterskull at end of turn. I believe that I just saw some Cabal Therapies on his way through the deck, so those are more good cards in the matchup, but completely dead this game. It can be pretty rough to lose the die roll against Tezzerator. And I was worried that he did not have a play. Maybe he's just fetching while there's no mana. I know that Thunder sure is playing some weird stuff over there. It's quite possible that Francis has no real idea what's going on yet. And that is an Ensnaring Bridge with 3 cards left in hand. Francis will give that a quick look. Okay, so Bridge is a big problem for this deck because it really can't win without attacking unless it ultimates and Liliana. But he'll activate the Stoneforge now. And it looks like he already had a Jite in hand, so the Batterskull remains in hand. Oh, don't tap 1 mana. That can't be good. Alright, well that will get chaliced. Can never be sure whether he was trying to sneak that through Thunder there or whether he forgot, but Sword was dead in the game regardless, so without Brainstorm effects and any way to put things back on the library, there's no real reason to leave a white up for the rest of the game, so I don't mind him testing it there either. Now, Francis can attack if he equips. He can also put something else on the board, which that's great. The Dark Confidant was something that I would have been happier to see him cast than the Stoneforge. Although attacking might become extremely difficult to impossible soon, since his mana base is fine and Thunder can probably cast almost anything, provided he's not just maybe stuck with Force of Will in hand. No, I think he would have hardcast Force on Dark Confidant. I don't think that's counter magic stuck in hand. It might be something more situational, like maybe he's got a transmute artifact. I wouldn't even hate it if you let the Chalice go at this point. You can probably transmute that into something better now that you already have a bridge. It's going to go search out a lovely foreign black bordered Badlands. And I'm curious to see what he's got here. Francis is also very astutely fetched nothing but basics this game. I'm not sure if he was aware of the fact that Thunder could likely have a Crucible in an archetype like this. Yeah, give that a read. For 3 mana, what appears to be a Planeswalker, that has to be Tezzeret, right? Tezzeret has to be a removal spell for Dark Confidant here, right? Or is he just going to be super patient and make himself some defenders first? He's going to tick down and kill that Jute before he can do anything. And with his mana base so safe, I'm okay with him letting that Dimir Signet go. Got an upkeep, Lingering Souls, and Francis will take 3 damage and get an additional draw step this turn. Thunder still with 2 cards in hand. And I mentioned that Lingering Souls, I feel like it's not a good card in this matchup, but it's not especially bad. I think that this is a pretty easy block with the Strix on Dark Confidant here. And that leave Tezzeret at 1. And we really wanted Dark Confidant off the table. I believe maybe Francis is pushing this forward here because he knows that the Dark Confidant was going to die regardless. Seems like a bit of a bad spot. He will fetch, and I hope he is not going to cast something else into this Chalice. Okay, well Thunder drew, so I guess it looks like it was another fetch end my turn maneuver. Not entirely sure why he's going for those, but anything is possible in Thunder's deck. I mean, he had blue up, so if he was going to stifle him, that was going to happen regardless. Thunder found a Thopter Foundry, so he will be able to protect his Tezzeret even from the flyers here. Tezzeret ticks back up. Thunder is down to a single card in hand, which it looks like he cannot get rid of. But that's okay for him because he will be able to sacrifice something, I guess the Chalice, to create a Thopter. And when he finds a Sword of the Meek, he'll be in the money. I guess he has no guarantees of ever finding that, but maybe we'll find a Tezzeret off the top. We'll see how he will proceed here after giving that a read. We also have to keep in mind, I mean, doesn't he still have that Batterskull in hand? Guess it's irrelevant now. So his hand must be 1-drops and a Batterskull? Thunder will think for a moment. And he's letting Tezzeret go. I'm very surprised. Okay. The flashback on Lingering Souls is no surprise. The laydown of Tezzeret is interesting to me. But he found a DAC. Yeah, let's give that one a read also. So DAC is probably going to climb up here. There's no artifacts to steal anymore. And we got to feel like Thunder is probably on the hunt for Sword of the Meek to close the game out. And then he's going to discard almost anything except for Tezzeret or another helpful artifact. I can't imagine very much else resolving that is a problem for him besides Liliana. So if his hand is full of things like Force of Will that he couldn't cast earlier, then I wouldn't be surprised to see them get laid down with the discard off of DAC. Okay, so his Force Transmute. Reading the old text on a black bordered transmute artifact is not really that helpful. If you guys don't know, it is not like the other sacrifice spells. You do not sacrifice an artifact upon cast. The spell must resolve. Francis's hand here has to just be a pile of 1-drops that he knows are not going to sneak through Thunder here. But with an army of souls in the air, they cannot attack. He's a little dumbfounded as to what to do. Sure. Thunder is okay with this. And Francis, interestingly, leaves the 2 mana up, threatening a Stoneforge activation, which I believe is completely irrelevant. Seeing as how he does not want Dak Faden to steal his Batterskull anyway. And Thunder now has enough mana that there's nothing that he could draw in his deck except for a Force of Will that he could not cast. So as long as he can get rid of everything every turn, he doesn't have to do anything except for activate Planeswalkers and look to increase his board position. I also find it interesting that he was so patient with the Thopter activation that he refused to throw out the Chalice to protect the Tezzeret, knowing that soon he would be completely out of cards regardless, and that the souls wouldn't be able to attack. I think they're discussing the second copy of Lingering Souls, which should definitely be in the graveyard. I mean, where else would it be? The Thunder has completely locked Francis out of the game. And that is a decent enough win condition. The ultimate on Tez will actually kill Francis very quickly if there's a couple of Thopter tokens to be generated. Right now, the Tez would do 8 damage. Realistically, he only really needs to find another artifact off of this and then draw another one. And then activate Tez and kill him. And Dak is playing very well with the bridge here. Alright, so he lets the Chalice go. And as I suspected, there's no forests in this list. There's no way that he is decaying any of these things. I think without being able to look at Thunder's hand turn 1 and 2, Dead Guy Ale is going to have a lot of harsh realities to face in this matchup. It's going to be difficult to deal with any of the permanents that they put down because Planeswalkers are notoriously hard to kill for a deck in these colors, and the lack of Abrupt Decay is going to keep the artifacts around as well. It would be nice to have a couple of copies of Vindicate. I would not be surprised to see those. Okay. I forgot to mention the finding a Inventor's Fair last turn off of the Dak Faden draw allows him to go look for Sword of the Meek. And if I was Francis here, I would no longer be interested in playing this game. This game has gone on quite long, and if I need to play another 2 games, I don't even really need to watch him play these and tick his life up. He has very diligently read all of the Planeswalkers, though, and I appreciate that because a lot of players, when they're faced with a lot of cards that they aren't super intimately familiar with all at once, sometimes they just turn it off completely and they figure, oh, it's too much information, I don't really know what they're doing over there. I think that Francis has a perfect idea of what is going on over there. Yeah, and there's no need to look any further. Oh, actually, he did kill him. He wasn't patiently choking him out. Francis waited for the Tezzeret Agent of Bolus activation that must have done somewhere around 20 damage there. Things that the Tez player may have up their sleeve for game 2, things like Toxic Deluge, which I know doesn't really play nice with their Thopter plan, but sometimes comes in as an answer to creature and aggro decks. I think Engineered Explosives is fantastic in this match. I also believe that a non-zero number of Pyroclasms could be there. But this is Thunder, and he's our favorite jank player, so he could possibly have anything. He could also have a copy of the Abyss in there, which I know he would love to resolve. Other things that I know that he plays are more blue-oriented, things like trying to sneak Notion Thief into the battlefield in response to a brainstorm, or trying to bring in a couple copies of Defense Grid. Wouldn't surprise me either, but neither of those things will be relevant here against a white-black deck. I think that Francis really needs to turn up the heat here and bring in any way that he can of shutting off Thunder's graveyard so that he doesn't have the inevitability of bringing back the sword an infinite number of times. And I think that things like Swords to Plowshares and the slower pieces of equipment are really bad here. I don't want to see a Batterskull in post board, for example. The Jute is also a little underwhelming. So if you've got the space, I could actually see removing Stoneforge here. I don't know if he has it, but something that Jeff Hoogland has been playing a lot is Tide Hollow Sculler, and I think that Tide Hollow Sculler would have been better than Dark Confidant, better than Stoneforge Mystic, better even than the Maverick style lists with Tarmogoyf in it. Just it's a 2/2 beater, and then it's going to look at the hand, and Tezzeret is a little slow, and he's going to take whatever, and any way that you've got of looking at Thunder's hand is going to help you immensely here. I'm also curious if either of these players really care about wastelanding each other very much. I know that Tezzeret occasionally plays a Crucible, but seeing only one copy of Wasteland out of Thunder's deck that last game, I think that he's probably only got maybe 1 or 2 Wastelands in the list as a sort of pair of utility lands rather than a lock piece. And Francis's land base actually looked very sleek. It was nothing but basics and fetches that I saw. So he will basically be immune to Wasteland. And from him, I would love to see things like Swords to Plowshares and Souls not in the deck any longer. And maybe if he can play an early Liliana after Thoughtseizing Thunder a few times, maybe he's got a good shot. A turn 2 Dark Confidant would also be on the menu here as things that he wants to see. So he does have a piece of turn 1 interaction. I think that this will be a black source, and never mind. An Inquisition would probably be the best card there, but he's fetching on his main phases and passing the turn. And Thunder is ramping up here, asking if his Mox is resolving. So turn 2 plays for Tez. Chalice on 1 again. So once more, Thunder has dodged getting Inquisition and Thoughtseized on turn 1, and then landed a Chalice before his opponent can do anything. And I don't really know why I search for Plains on turn 1, don't play anything past the turn. Although, to be fair, I'm not the pilot of this deck at all. I think this is going to be a turn 2 Dark Confidant, which is a really good start here. Would only be made better if he followed up a turn 1 piece of anything. Since we have not seen a single Cabal Therapy or Thoughtseize or anything resolved against Thunder here, I think the deck is looking a little anemic. I believe that this deck is kind of a wussy creature archetype, but it does better against combo matchups than other Little Fair decks, because it should be running 8 pieces of discard, really. The deck is naked here, though, so he's going to go down to 2 from the Dark Confidant. And discarding a Sword of the Meek is fantastic. That's a nice little trick there. Any 1/1 that Thunder creates is going to automatically get equipped. That includes constructs made off of Daretti, and of course the Thopters made off of Thopter Foundry, and Baleful Strixes as well. Francis will fetch for the 3rd time. Get yet another basic. Nice Dark Confidant hit, by the way. And a turn 3 Lingering Souls, so besides turn 1, he is playing on curve here. He's also Wasteland proof. He also has that DAC covered. So he's doing okay here. Oh, never mind. Is that, what is that? Is that Pyrokinesis? No, that's not what Pyrokinesis looks like. Is that the old art for Pyroclasm? Because that card makes way more sense. Yeah, that isn't... What is that? Ice Age Pyroclasm? That is a hideous card. I love it. So Pyroclasm is going to keep Dak alive. My Table Spotter will come along and ask Thunder to please use these awesome oversized dice that we brought. Now the board is clear, and our opponent cannot cast any 1-drops. Oh. Brutal. So that's a little late, but it's going to unlock a Pithing Needle on deck. Okay. What is that? Is that Dak's worst fear? There's some artifact that can actually talk back to him. Okay, this much must be a Tez. And he's just going to dig here. Remember that Francis can still flash back the Lingering Souls. Thunder has nothing, even with Tez's minus, he doesn't have any way of putting flyers in the air, so he can't protect the Tez yet. And he'll use this opportunity to remove the Chalice from Thunder's graveyard because he knows that Thunder had put one in his hand from the Tez. I like that a lot. I was confused for a second about what the various hand signals were when Francis was trying to determine whether it was, is it my turn? Is it the middle of your turn? If it's your end step, then I have an action. I don't think that Thunder can stop him from casting Lingering Souls now, but I also don't see how the Lingering Souls are very threatening. But with his 1-drops left over, maybe he can deploy... No, I guess the hand disruption doesn't really make much sense now. Though finding Thoughtseize for the bridge remaining in Thunder's hand would be very helpful. Otherwise, I don't think that he has much way out of it, besides what I believe is a high possibility for Vindicate left in the deck. Is this Deathrite plus GT? Okay. I think that second read of Tezzeret was, guys, wait a second. Let me read this and make sure that this crazy dude can't steal my GTA if I play it. So Thunder here. I think that he needs to make a large creature to protect his Tez. If he were to just count up now looking for another one, that would be risky, I feel. But never mind all that because he had 2 artifacts. So the insignia now, I believe that signet will probably turn into a blocker. Oh, sorry, did I miss something? Was that Tez already used that turn to find something? That'll be it. Pithing Needle on Tezzeret, Agent of Bolus. Maybe a flashback of Lingering Souls or an equip. He has no cards in hand, so this equip doesn't really make that much sense. He's going to attempt to attack. No, he can't. Oh shit, he says. Okay, go. So Thunder is still... I find it very unlikely that he's going to draw anything that he can't use, but he's not actually making any headway on the board. Wait, is that Pithing Needle not on Tezzeret? Oh, so he must have named the thing that he was afraid of losing to, and not the current board. I wish I knew what that was naming. Well, I guess we'll see if he activates Thopter Foundry or not. So the Surgicals came in to fight a couple of different cards, namely Sword of the Meek. Oh. You better not do... Oh, no. Okay, so Francis punted this game now. By targeting something that Thunder could respond to. And I think that's all she wrote. So guys, be very careful. When someone has something in their graveyard that can return to their hand or to the battlefield due to some trigger, please do not be the first person to act. Please do not be the one who initiates some action, because when they respond to it and you get blown out and you lose a card, you lose the game, you feel bad, you have to tell your friend that you fucked up. So what happened here was exactly like when you try to surgical someone's life from the loam and they respond by cycling a card, doing something that allows them to dredge. The only way to make sure that you're safe there is wait patiently for your opponent to put the trigger on the stack that would bring it back out of the graveyard, and then respond to that. And if they can do it twice, well then bad beats. Guess you're done though. But this matchup looked a little rough from the dead guy side, but oh, there's a Gideon of the Trials. I think that card was really what he wanted to see. And as he skims through his deck, I see that the Tide Hollow Scholars are there. Lots of the really good cards that I expected are there, but he didn't find them. I mean, he's a white deck. He wasn't playing Brainstorm. It's hard to find all the cards that you need. And Tez wins. So good game, Thunder. He will be advancing. I believe at this point in the tournament he was 2-0. So see you back for round 3.